Hello everyone, Master Xeon1001 here, and in this video I'll be going over the process of creating this quick spherical asset here, just goofing off with a little bit of hard ops and Boxcutter, curves, using the wireframe modifier, you know, some of those good old classics. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in and get started. Alright, so getting started, we're just going to take our default cube here, not delete it. Press Q, and under add modifiers we're just going to use the custom modifier set of Sphericals, and I'll press Control 4 to add one more level of subdivision on it, and we'll just draw a box and cut the top right off. From here we're just going to draw a box here, bring it down, press B to bevel, and we're just going to cut some details around that cut. You know the name of the game when we're going to Box City. Just chilling out, jamming, doing a little cutting. Alt X, let's mirror that over. Let's go ahead and tackle this thing from the front. So we'll bring this thing down. I'm going to switch over to circle with the D menu. Falling more in love with the D pie every day. And we'll draw another one here. Just bring that over to the center. And because we're using object instead of modifier, it's just going to work. And we'll of course mirror this to the other side. So from here, I'm just going to try something I was experimenting with previous to this video, and that is doing a cut similar to, or bringing in a cube and doing a sphere cast. But we're going to go to layer 2, Alt H, bring this back. And we're going to take this shape here and actually slash it. In fact, we want to do the right selection order and press Control numpad slash, and we see that it takes away the wrong piece. This means that in the future we're going to need to make a modification to the way slash works, but in reality what we actually want is this one. So once we cut that in here, it should behave the way it's supposed to. However, it looks like it's going to give us just a little bit of business here. So let's see what we can do to alleviate it. Let's actually remove the bevel and we'll cut that in. But we'll go back to this layer and bring this back, out of the groove a little bit. Haven't done a tutorial in a moment. There we go. And all I wanted to do is actually just give this a bowl. So, you know, I could actually scale this in to adjust the boolean of the trim, but the last couple of times I was like, I should probably give it a trim, because with a trim I could, you know, go through with N-Gon, hold Control to snap to that 15 degree, and just do a couple of cuts. Alright, and let's see what we got here. So the next thing is I'm going to bring in a plane, and I just want to show you a little trick I've been messing with lately. And we'll just put this in the first quadrant because we'll be mirroring it everywhere else. You know me. And we're going to subdivide, 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 subdivide. Alt P used to poke, so I'll use spacebar and I'll just type in poke. We'll find poke, Alt J, and that's it. So now we can actually go under wireframe and just add a wireframe modifier. You know, back in the day I used to make grill using a pattern. Now I actually do it this way, and it's just a lot better. So the next thing is I want to go to layer 2, Alt H, bring everything back again, and we're just going to select this, slash. We'll delete that, go back to layer 1, and before actually going forward with it like this, I'm going to put one level of subdivision. Watch the computer hang. A little tragedy there of the AMD. But we're back in the game. A hang isn't nothing. Alright, so we can actually move this piece over because it's still dynamic and actually get it to fit, giving this just the right amount. But we can select that, select the main piece, press Alt X, and use the to object helper to mirror this across there. And we'll select it again and mirror it across the other way as well. The more I do this, the more I see that we probably need some sort of multi-mirroring solution in the future. So that's something that I've been putting a little bit of thought into. but we do have the next hops on the way, and it should be pretty exciting, so stay tuned for that. All right, so let's actually work this side now. I'm gonna go back into Ngon, and we're gonna click this button up top, which aligns the shape to the viewport. So that means no matter what I'm drawing on, it won't align to the surface, which can be annoying sometimes if you don't want the object to align with the surface. And we'll just bring that in after double clicking. I'm gonna hold shift, keep it live. We'll look at it in top view, and we'll shift S, origin to geometry, R45, S, Z, Z to scale it on its local Z axis. And we're just trying to find just the right scale to put this in there. That's pretty good. So, I've been wanting to do some sort of outward trim on these things, but instead of risking it doing something experimental, also I'm going to hide the camera in the light, just so when I press Shift C, as in cat, it focuses me on the object. So I'm going to press Shift A, add a cube, and we'll go to add modifier, sphere cast, turn this to a sphere as well, Control 4 to give it some local density. And we're just going to look at this in front view, and we're still in align to view, so we'll just draw a box for that. We'll look at it in top mode, and we're just going to slice that out. Don't even have to look at it to do the slice. That's how you know it's a good slicer. And we'll go to wireframe and add a wireframe mod and just bring that in. However, we do have the ability to still add subdivisions to this, which will help us. Also, we want the wireframe to be a little bit more chill, but that'll work. So let's take this, Alt X, mirror it over. We'll also turn on Y. And also I want to flip these to go a different direction. So in that case, we're going to, we'll apply it at 5. Crazy, I know. And we'll poke, Alt J to convert to quads. Good thing they haven't got rid of that shortcut yet. And now they're facing the opposite direction. Except we got these little points sticking out the bottom. So we probably get away with applying that. And we just move this up the stack. And everything's fine, and we're ready to proceed. So the next thing is I'm going to Shift A, insert a plane, and Q, T thick, but I'll press 2 in order to make it go out on both sides. Q, difference. And we'll just shrink that in ever so slight. And from here, I actually want to switch to box, and we don't even need viewport drawing, but I'll just leave it on because it doesn't matter. And we'll just bring a cut here, press T, and of course our T thick only pushes one direction unless you flip it, just like in hops. And here we are, just making a quick little spherical. And of course Shift A will bring in a curve. And of course, using the hard ops hotkey Q will just give this a little bit of thickness. Press Control 3, and we'll just put this right here. And that's looking good. And we may even bring one down here. Q, adjust curve. Lately, I've been right-clicking a lot, hoping it brings up the Q menu. So that's something I've been pondering as well, is how to get the Q menu to be even more prominent. So I'll keep you tuned on that, and we'll just add some thickness here to push it both directions. Q, difference with multi-selection, of course. So if you've watched the previous videos, this stuff should be fairly simple, you know, pretty much the same old. We'll go in here and divide the thickness, and we've created our shape here. So if we go into rendered mode, this is what we have. We'll press Control tilde, and under material, let's just give it some metallicity, and let's lower the roughness just a little bit. We'll also change the base color to be darker. Darker it is, better it's going to look in Eevee. Unofficial rule. We'll press Control L and link all the materials. And we're making pretty good time on our spherical so far. I just wanted to show you all these little things I've been making, just goofing off. And the most interesting thing is, of course, we can go under operations, mod scroll, and scroll through the entire process of its creation, because everything is still non-destructive, able to be tweaked. So next thing from here is I'm going to bring in a plane, and of course Q, T thick, and we're going to go to layer 2, Alt H, bring back our sphere of destiny, shift layer 1, go to here, and just cut that sphere out of this plane as well. So it's kind of a busy sphere when you come to think of it. So we'll draw a box, and we'll go with end gun, cut this piece out. We're just creating a little leg system to hold our circular in place. And I'm actually not even using angles, holding control. There we go. It's always nice to be able to get that flat plane, at least until we get first point snapping in there, which is something that I've been quite pestery about, because I need it so bad. So whenever that's added, Ingon should be a little bit easier, but we do hope to be showing you all some very interesting things with it soon. I don't want to go too far into it in the video, but you should be fairly surprised. So I'm just going to use a little bit of Ingon. You know, Ingon's just a pressure tool. You get in and just really hit the surface with notches, or at least that's how I've been using Ingon, just little surface variations. So of course we'll follow that up with box, and we want to turn off align draw to view. And this will help us when it comes to the next part, which is a few more cutouts. I like to get a little imaginative when I'm messing with Boxcutter, just get lost in thought while listening to music. You know, if you see my last videos on installation, you know I've been obsessed with the Parasite Eve soundtrack. You know, the sequel, Parasite Eve 2, wasn't very good, but the soundtrack for the first one, just phenomenal. Maybe Square Enix will bring it back for E3, but you know, I think that we're looking at the new Square Enix here, so if we did, they wouldn't do it right. They'd do it episodic. So with this shape kept live, I'm just going to draw a box, but hold shift in order to keep it live, and we're just going to cut the cutter. One of my favorite things, of course. And we'll press 1 to just turn that layer off, and we're making our way through creating a more interesting shape. You know, another thing I kind of been experimenting with is, you know, right here I've drawn a make box, and it's not really aligned the way I want. This is the way I want, so I'll draw a make box, and then I'll press shift 1-7, or shift plus numpad 7, not shift 1-7, shift plus numpad 7 to focus on it. And I'll just delete that. And it's just giving me an idea for these utility shapes that wouldn't be used as cutters, but would be used for placement and alignment, like a construction line type of thing, but for helping you use Boxcutter. It's just something I've been rolling around in my head, and that's actually looking pretty good right there. So next thing from here is I'm going to shift A, bring in an empty sphere, And we're going to select this object. Now I know what you're thinking, this object's already mirrored across itself. Doesn't matter. We're going to select it, select the empty, Alt X, mirrored across the empty, and we're just going to RZ. And I hold control so I can just get it at 45. And we're done. And we can actually select this, Alt X again, and mirror it across to Y. So now this thing's like double mirrored. And it doesn't even need the double mirroring, but it's just simpler that way. So we've created the stand for our holy space ball that is some grenade of some sort. Of course, applying everything would be the ideal step here because it'll make everything cool, and we'll be back in the fun of editing. I'm going to snap my cursor here so I can put a cube there. I don't know why I didn't use make box. I'm telling you, old habits die hard. I love inserting cubes. Can't tell me, you know, I could make a better way to insert a cube and I will still be pressing Shift A. You know, if Blender removed Shift A, I would truly riot. So what we'll do is mirror this across there. And we'll also escalate this up to C Sharpen, which there's not really anything else that's even need to be done here. We press Alt H, bring everything back. And we can use the same empty to mirror this on the X of it. Oh wait, we'll select it and mirror it on the Y. Let's try that again. What's going on here? All right, sometimes I like to put a space in the mirror just to ensure that whenever we do something like this, it goes as predictable. But if you're ever having issues with the mirror situation, just add a space to one of your mirrors and the mirror system won't recognize it. Just a little hack. I know, kind of strange, but it's a thing. It's better to have the possibility than to be limited. So we're going to Shift A, insert a circle, and we're going to create a stage. So I inserted a circle, but I also inserted this curve. And we're going to select the first point, press E, Y, 2, select everything, press V, change it to vector, which just makes everything easier. And speaking of easier, this is kind of weird. I actually found out it's easier to convert this to a mesh and then go in here and bevel the back, and then go under quick effect or convert to and convert it back to a curve. And that's a lot easier than what I would have shown you, which is how to get curves to emulate this fillet, which is actually painful. So we're going to select this what's going to be our backboard, and we're going to select the curve, and we're going to use curve taper. So now we've actually created our backboard here for the stage. So if we scale this down, scale down the circle, you can see that this controls the size of our stage. And if we get inside and just look at this, we have a very nice endless 360 stage, which is going to be needed because I do want to just show some camera move stuff that I've been goofing off with, you know. Getting in Blender, it's nice to be able to have fun with Eevee being fast. So this next part, we're just going to just set the stage, create maybe a series of animations. Let's Alt V, jump to Eevee HQ. It looks like everything is HQ. Let's make the floor metallic. There we go. Now we're cooking. You have it totally reflective. Let's also jump to render instead. It's just if I'm going to be catching a whole bunch of shots, I don't want the camera in the background. Also, I haven't saved yet, so if Blender crashes, you know, it's one of those Jesus take the wheel type of situations. Also, the wireframe, it just looks thick. So let's go under there and press /2 to divide that by half. Just how I do things, I either multiply it by 2 or divide it by 2, the rule of halves. And let's press 0 and look at our camera. Our camera's up somewhere high, somewhere mechanical. So we look at this from the front. And we're jumping ahead of ourselves as far as steps. You know, there's the decaling phase, which I've missed. Also didn't jump the main object into having a bevel, which is also essential. You know, just placing cameras and using the Q menu with cameras to turn off the PP so I don't see the outline. From here, I'm just going to Shift A. We're just going to put in a area light, GZ, Q, and we'll change this to 1000, and also turn on contact shadow. And we'll shift select the main shape and use the track 2 in the spacebar menu to make a track. So now we're looking at it with this light, and we'll lower this down to 500. We'll lower this down to 200. And we'll duplicate this light, bring it up front, and we'll put this light here, and we'll put one more just in the rear, and we'll actually lower this one to be, or actually raise this one to be 300, but we'll take the front one and lower this one to be 100. That way we just have something going on with the light. But if you look at the object without the bevel, it's just lonely. It's just not going to read from as many angles without a bevel. So it's time for us to pay the piper. You know, whenever you put a bevel on a model, there's always a risk of it just looking terrible. So instead of jumping to C#, which will apply everything, or will apply mainly the bevels or the booleans, we're going to actually go under add modifier and just use bevel. A little bit of computer choke. And we'll bring it in ever so slightly. And the surface actually looks good, but unless we go under here and add a weighted normal, which this time I held shift just because I want it to be super sharp on these edges, really make these edges sing. And we'll just lower it just enough. We look at this through the camera view. Everything's looking good so far. So let's talk about camera moves. So Blender still hasn't crashed. You know, once Blender crashes, I'll wrap up this video and just upload it. But as long as it's just letting us work like we are, you know, Jesus take the wheel situation here. So with the camera, I'm going to press Alt G, Alt R. We'll just place it here, and you can see what hotkeys I'm pressing. So I'm just going to be a little less descriptive of these hotkeys now. So we'll press M to make a marker with our mouse over the timeline. Sorry, force of habit. And with the camera selected, we'll also press Control B. Let's see, Control B. All right, the camera's bound to that marker. It says it here. Usually it also puts an icon here, but whatever. They're gonna cause us issues. I'm gonna put a keyframe here, jump to number 60. And we'll move the camera here, look at it through camera view, GY, and press I, location, press M for a new marker, Shift A for a camera, and we'll press Control B. Alright, so this is camera 001. I don't feel like this thing is binding to the markers the way it's supposed to. There, a setting. Let's see, bind camera to markers. All right, there we go. They're gonna make me use F6 because this thing may have changed in between a previous build. So I'm gonna press RX90, just roll with the punches. You know, it's the Blender test. With each build, you know, I like to get in there and see how good Blender's gonna be to us this session. And be honest, Blender just gets better and better. I can't talk any trash on it. Shift A, we're gonna insert another empty sphere. Right click, we're gonna make this one bigger just so we can differentiate it from the first one. And under the rotation, we're going to put in my favorite command, pound frame times 0.15, enter. And so right here, we're going to select this, select the empty, by the grace of God we are, and object keep transform, which means that on this take, now it's going to be spinning around. However, let's look at that spin, because that's spinning like crazy. So maybe instead of 15, we do it, no, that's still crazy, 0.5. All right, so we have one camera that will be moving across the surface, but it's not doing it now. In fact, why is this camera marker not here? So we press M, put that marker back. Control B. There we go, now it's bound. I don't know what's going on with Blender, just torching my sanity. So there we are, sweep, then we jump to this thing. And maybe at 120, we do M, Shift A, camera, Control B, okay. And we'll get a rolling shot like this. We'll press I for location, and we'll jump forward to frame 170, press GZZ to go forward with allegations. GZZ. And we'll press I. And let's look at that one. Looking good. Looking good. Floor is shiny as hell. We should probably calm down on that a little bit. And let's turn off seeing useless stuff for a moment. So here's our first shot. It's us sweeping over the surface, going around it, jump into a shot of going across the surface. And let's look at this camera's keyframes. So do we want this to actually end on 180? And the answer is yes, but we'll press M, put another marker, and we'll Shift A, add a camera, and we'll press Control B, Control B, I don't know why this thing's giving me the business, so we'll put this here. And also, we'll turn on automatic keyframing for this, because otherwise we're going to keep pressing I. And we'll jump to 220, GZZ. We'll bring it back. Sheesh, for a shot like that, you're going to have to go to a little bit further back in the timeline. I like the way it looks, though. That round stage. It's almost like a vignette when you look at it like that. And we'll press M for another marker. And we'll Shift A. Add our old friend camera. And Control B. Nope. It's just not going to let us bind cameras to markers like that. Also, alright, what's going on with camera 4? Is camera 4 even here? There it is. We'll show that leg, you know, that $1,000 leg. So we'll jump to 340. We'll actually make it end at 340. Not gonna be our final decision. location, and the timeline isn't even showing keyframing. So I don't know what's going on with Blender. I'm gonna have to play with it a little bit afterwards. I should have updated it and then did this video. I see that's why it's giving me the heat. And we're going across the surface and we're looking at it. You know what sucks though is because in the initial test, I duplicated the main camera over and over, this one, so that way I wouldn't have to go through and do what you're about to see me do here, which is each camera shot, go through and modify the PP like you see me doing here, just selecting each camera as it pops up, just clicking on the border and just modifying that PP. You know what else? I could use some depth of field. I was too lax on the depth of field in my previous test, but you know. So let's look at what we have here. I'm gonna check viewport denoising, even though it kind of makes my viewport look bad. That was a let's talk about shot one. So we select this camera and we look at, why is it not showing keyframes? I don't even know where you would go to make this actually show. Oh, there we are. Keyframes back. So we want this to go early, maybe 5 frames early. You know, let's select these two, T, linear. And we sweep through that first shot. All right, that one's definitely going to be mechanical. Wow, look at that viewport when you're smearing through it. Just looks crazy. But it's real time, so I can't complain. So we keep going around. Right here, we want to select this camera. Want to talk to this camera. We'll move it a frame back, a frame ahead, select both of those, press T, make it linear. And linear is just going to make it where it doesn't ease into a stop or start on a slope, you know, basic animation stuff. But this isn't even an animation tutorial. Just wanted to show you all Sphericals, so that way, you know, maybe you guys would want to give it a shot. Something I've been having fun with myself. Alright, that one's probably my favorite one because it starts off showing some leg. Yeah, and then it just starts whipping through. You know, it'd probably speed this thing up is if I turned on half res trace. So we let this play. Yeah. And that is almost dead. I mean, we could probably do a little bit better on rendering this thing. Also, maybe more cuts. You know, it's kind of an easy day when you're only getting cut this bad. You know, one of the things I like about this AMD computer is that I can cut during the render. So even though I'm in render state, I can still do a little bit of cutting. But as you can see, a little bit of lag too. Also, I know how to shift to live. There we go. There we go. And we'll put some thickness on it. Turn that into a panel cut. A little bit of lag there. So maybe I should stop cutting in render mode. Really probably pushing my luck, right? I've already set up my render and everything, and now I'm going back in to cut. But, you know, at this point, let's save the file. Broke the rules, gonna save. We'll call this BC. Actually, I think I already have some files. There it goes, Spherical 1. Call it Spherical 2 underscore vid underscore 1. We'll save that, but I'm gonna Control Shift S to jump back into save, and I'll click the plus, which will jump this up a level. And from here, I'm just going to select this object and cue C Sharpen. Actually, I just got hit with instant regret, and you'll see why in just a moment. You know, I could explain it while we're waiting on this hourglass, but basically there's modifiers in the stack that were needing to be applied, and because I didn't apply them before activating C Sharp, we now see that Blender's having a hard time, probably through some of that depth graph stuff, of just applying these modifiers out of order in order to deal with our needs here. So I can either wait for this to conclude, which is going to take a moment. So right here, we're dealing with the spherical, and what I want to do is go into modifier helper. We're actually going to apply subdivide and apply cast, and now we can see sharpen it, and it will just go through the way it was supposed to. And so now everything is applied destructively, and this is because we want to select everything, press P, separate it into loose parts, and just do a little bit of material breakup here. It just can't be going out rendering just solid gray objects without doing some work here. This would also be a good time to use some of the material packs I got, but I'll save that for a future video. So I'm going to draw a shape here, bring it down. Notice how buttery quick it is now that it's no longer live. I mean, all that stuff live, I mean, on top of a subdivision, just gonna get so slow. So thanks to the Threadripper, I've learned some new bad habits, but the performance difference here is just insane. I mean, I forget that all those modifiers just stack up and hit your speed so hard. So, you know, whenever people ask why I work destructively, all I can really say is sometimes you got to break some eggs to, you know, get this model to the finish line. Also, there is one of our old friends here. Got to press numpad slash a couple of times, but also go into orthographic. There we go. 1, 2, Alt M, merge it last. There's another one here. Alt M, merge it last, and that'll be cleaned up. And it looks like those doubles actually extended farther than we wanted, so we're probably hotlining right in that area. So we'll apply to booleans by clicking that button and just clean this up, and we're done cleaning up. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. So continuing on, maybe on the front here, we also want to do something. Also, because I have this big stage here to just get on my nerves. You know what else would be cool is if I right-clicked here, put a curve like a path, chose Q, and just made it thicker, press 3 or 2 to use the preset for, geez, there needs to be an X-ray view in Eevee. As weird as that would sound. Always press Alt Z in rendered view, and there's nothing for it there. Alright. Got a little sticky there, but we got our curve in there. And that's what we want. So now I just wanted to play it to make sure that we select the right empty and we mirror it across. And as you can see, hard ops now allows you to mirror curves. Well, it has over the last previous version. I'm just not sure if I mentioned that. SYYXX. And what I'll do here is Alt B, but we have to go in solid view for this to work, and use our old classic friend. W is still the bane of my existence. Getting rid of the special button really just took away something that was quite special. Subdivide. But I understand, these are probably hard decisions. And what we'll do here is select these two pieces, subdivide, delete that, just to put an edge in between, Alt B, and ended up doing some manual curve beveling after all. So we can jump over to rendered view, and let's look at our result here. So Control S. Timeline's taking a moment to play there for some reason. 5 FPS. What's going on here? Yeah, Eevee's looking kind of crazy in real time. Let's go back and look at this part, because I've never seen all this after image stuff. I feel like I've gotten hit by a TN move. So we'll let that spin, and then we let the camera jump across the surface, and with denoising off, it just looks atrocious. And we let the camera pull back and go up, showing all our stage, and then one more going across the legs here, which I realized I probably should have replaced the final shot with this one. And you see viewport denoising off, just looks terrible without it. But with that, this video is complete. So all that's left for me is to render out the result, put it at the beginning of this video to show you guys, and that'll do it. So I will be seeing you guys next time to show off a new decal kit while I put some decals on this spherical, and I'll see you guys next. Alright, now that Eevee finished rendering, which took about 20 minutes to render 340 frames, I can go into render and choose, where is it, Control F11, view animation, and this little window will pop up, basically playing back the animation for us to look at. And that is it. So I just wanted to show you guys the final result, and also what I would have done with the final animation at the end. In fact, to continue on that same thread, I could Control S, save this file, and we're going to just make a new file and go to the video editing tab, which isn't here. I could have started a new video editor layout, but we'll import this animation sequence, which is here, always in my recents, is the last folder, good old Blender. And so now we actually have this as a image sequence where, you know, one of these should be a timeline instead of a folder loader. But let's just set our end frame to be 340. And if we press Control Spacebar, it'll just play back. And we can look at the final result here. In fact, whenever it comes to rendering videos, I'll change this over to FF, or yeah, FF MPEG video, and under encoding, change it from Mataroska to MP4. And I'll even set up the audio to be as MP3 whenever I render out the final result. And that way it'll be able to play back on all major internet platforms. I'm not sure about Mataroska. So with that, I can truly wrap up this video, and I'll see you guys next time.